China State Council Information Office will hold a press conference on Tuesday to explain the white paper entitled The Diversified Employment of China's Armed Forces. The white paper is the 8th defense white paper to be published by the State Council Information Office since 1998. It is the first time the Chinese government has published a defense white paper on a specific issue. The paper defines the main tasks of the Chinese Armed Forces. China's defense white paper is published every 2 years. It covers issues such as national defense policy, army building, arms control and disarmament, international security, and international security cooperation. Now let's go to the press conference to listen in. Now, as I mentioned, the white paper is the 8th defense white paper to be published by the State Council Information Office.
To today's press conference. Today, our office issues the white paper on the diversified employment of China's armed forces. In order to help you to better understand this white paper, we've invited Colonel Yang Yujun, spokesperson of the National Defense Ministry, Senior Colonel Wu Xihua from the headquarters of the General Staff, and Senior Captain Han Jiangzhou from the General Political Department. They would brief you on the white paper and would also take your questions. First, I would give the floor to Colonel Yang. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, good morning. Today, the defense white paper with the theme of the diversified employment of China's armed forces has been issued to the public. It has been the 8th defense white paper released by the Chinese government since 1998. It is also the first white paper devoted to one special subject related to national defense. From now on, the Chinese government will issue on an alternative basis the defense white papers on either comprehensive or focused topics in the hope of better introducing the development of China's national defense and armed forces to people both at home and abroad. Our defense white paper comprises 4 parts: preface, main body, concluding remarks, and appendix. The main body has 5 chapters, which are new situation, new challenges and new missions, building and development of China's armed forces, defending national sovereignty, security and territorial integrity, supporting national economic and social development, and safeguarding world peace and regional stability. It has a total of around 15,000 words. Compared with the comprehensive defense white paper issued in the past, our latest defense white paper highlights the main theme and is more focused. It provides a systematic and in-depth introduction to the missions, tasks, and employment of China's armed forces. The main body of the white paper mainly covers the following 4 aspects. First, an objective analysis of the international security situation and China's security environment. The white paper points out that the international situation on the whole remains peaceful and stable. However, the world is still far from being safe. International security issues are becoming more abrupt, interrelated, and comprehensive, and sophisticated. China is in an important period of strategic opportunities for the development, but still faces multiple and complicated security threats and challenges. Second, it contains an exposition on the policies and principles for the diversified employment of our armed forces. Our white paper points out that the diversified employment of the armed forces adheres to the following 5 fundamental principles. First, safeguarding national sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity, and supporting the nation's peaceful development. Second, aiming to win local wars in information age and expanding and intensifying military preparedness. Third, formulating the concept of comprehensive security and effectively conducting military operations other than war. Fourth, deepening security cooperation and fulfilling international obligations. And fifth, acting in accordance with laws, policies, and disciplines. Third, this white paper contains a systematic briefing on the building and development of our armed forces. The white paper gives a brief introduction to the general reforms of our armed forces in recent years and explains respectively the responsibilities, tasks, and development of PLA Army, Navy, Air Force, and Second Artillery, and People's Armed Police, and the militia. It illustrated that China's armed forces have a solid foundation of capabilities for accomplishing diversified tasks. For the first time, white paper makes public the total strength of the PLA Army Mobile Operation Units and the designations of Army Combined Corps, total strength of the Navy and the Air Force, and the nicknames of the missiles of the Second Artillery. Fourth, the white paper contains a detailed exposition on the practices of diversified employment of our armed forces. The white paper emphasized that the fundamental tasks of our armed forces are consolidating national defense, resisting foreign aggression, and defending motherland. It explains how China's armed forces safeguard border, coastal, and territorial area security, maintain constant combat preparedness, and carried out various exercises and drills. The white paper points out that safeguarding the peaceful labor of the Chinese people, participating in national construction, and serving the people wholeheartedly are important tasks entrusted by our Constitution and relevant laws to our armed forces. It gives a briefing on our armed forces' participation in national construction and participation in emergency rescue and disaster relief, maintenance of social stability, protection of maritime rights, and protection of overseas interests. The white paper reiterates that China's security and development are closely connected with the peace and prosperity of the world as a whole, and China's armed forces have always been a staunch force for upholding world peace and regional stability. The white paper also introduced the participation of armed forces in UN peacekeeping operations, international humanitarian aid and disaster relief operations, maintenance of the security of international sea lines of communication, and the joint exercises and training with foreign armed forces. In the concluding remarks, our white paper once again states that China's armed forces will always place above all else the protection of national sovereignty and security and the interests of Chinese people. They will persistently regard maintaining world peace and promoting common development as the important missions and speed up the modernization of national defense and armed forces. They will take an active part in international security cooperation and work with armed forces of other countries to foster international security environment of peace, stability, equality, mutual trust, and win-win outcome. Thank you.
下面开始提问。提问之前啊，请你通报一下你代表的新闻机构。开始提问。
坚持人不犯我，我不犯人；人若犯我，我不犯人。坚决采取一切必要的措施，维护国家主权和领土完整。那么，我想请问的是，这是否意味着我们的国家政策会更加强，对外的国家政策会更加强硬？那么，我们的军队是否更倾向于使用武力来解决我们与周边国家的领土和主权的争端呢？
With CCTV, we have noticed that since the end of last year, China's armed forces have emphasized the capability to fight and to win. And it is also stated in this white paper that China's armed forces adhere to the following principle as it employs the armed forces in a diversified way. The principle that we will not attack unless we are attacked, and if attacked, we will certainly counterattack. And the armed forces will take all measures necessary to safeguard the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the nation. My question is, does that mean that China's foreign policy will become more assertive? And will the Chinese armed forces be more likely to resort to force to settle the sovereignty and the territorial disputes with China's neighbors?
好，这个问题请吴主任回答。
那么军队啊，首先的身份是战斗队，打仗应该说是军队与生俱来的，也是根本的职能。那么和平时期准备打仗，就是军队的基本实践活动。那么对于这一点，世界各国的军队概莫能外。
The armed forces are for combat, and the fundamental task and the natural duty of the armed forces is to fight. And in the time of peace, combat preparedness is the aim of the daily activities of the armed forces. It goes for all countries around the world.
那么中国军队把能打仗、打胜仗作为强军之要，并以此为牵引，努力提高打赢能力，完全是为了维护国家主权、安全、发展利益的需要，是正当的，也是正常的。
The Chinese armed forces take the enhancement of its ability to fight and to win as one priority objective, and are redoubling its efforts to improve that capability. Its purpose is to safeguard national sovereignty and security and our interests, and it is legitimate and also normal.
那么中国坚持走和平发展道路，始终奉行防御性的国防政策，永远不称霸、不争霸、不搞军事扩张。
China follows the path of peaceful development, and we observe the defense policy that is defensive in nature. We will never seek hegemony or military expansion.
那么我们一贯主张和平解决国际争端，坚持通过对话谈判、平等协商来解决与周边国家之间的矛盾和问题。中国的对外政策是坚定的，也是一贯的。
We have always believed that international disputes should be resolved peacefully, and we are committed to resolving the disagreements and issues with our neighbors through dialogue, negotiation, and consultation on an equal footing. Our foreign policy has been firm and consistent.
那么这里需要指出的是，中国国防政策的防御性与捍卫国家核心利益的坚定性是统一的。
Here I would like to stress that while we are maintaining that our national defense policy is defensive in nature, we have full resolve in upholding our national interests.
我们热爱和平，致力于和平发展，但绝不会以牺牲国家的核心利益为代价。我们反对战争，不希望打仗，但如果有人要把战争强加到我们头上，我们就必须能够决战决胜，不辱使命。
We love peace, and we are pursuing peaceful development. But that does not mean that we will sacrifice our national core interests. We are opposed to war, and we do not want to engage in any wars. But if someone imposes war onto ourselves, then we must fight and to win, so as to not let people down.
中国政府和军队维护国家领土主权等核心利益的决心和意志坚定不移。谢谢。
The Chinese government and China's armed forces have firm determination and resolve to uphold the core interests of China that related to our sovereignty and territorial integrity. Thank you.
下一个问题，第7排的问题是。
中新社，我们注意到这部白皮书呢是中国政府发表的首部专题型国防白皮书。那发布这部白皮书是基于什么样的考虑呢？和这个综合性白皮书有什么样的区别？另外就是说，这部白皮书呢首次公布了一些数据，表明中国军事透明度有所提高。那想请问一下，就是这个与国际社会呢，还是国际社会的期望相比呢，还是有一定的距离？对此作何评论？谢谢。
With China News Agency, we have noticed that this white paper is the first defense white paper on special topic issued by the Chinese government. My question is, what are your considerations behind the issuance of this theme-based white paper? And what is the difference between this white paper and the comprehensive ones issued in the past? Another question is that we have noticed that this white paper released certain figures and showing steps that you have taken to enhance transparency, yet it is still yet to meet the international expectation regarding transparency. So how would you comment on that?
好，这个问题我来回答。你刚才是提了2个问题，那么关于你的第一个问题，我刚才已经介绍过了。从1998年以来啊，中国政府先后发表了7部综合型国防白皮书。那么在2012年，我们总结前几年发表这种综合型国防白皮书的实践经验的基础之上，决定今后采取综合型和专题型国防白皮书交替发表、有序结合的方式，并且呢，确定呢于2013年发表第1部专题型国防白皮书。
Since 1998, the Chinese government has issued 7 comprehensive defense white papers. In the year 2012, we reviewed our past experience in issuing such comprehensive white papers and decided to issue on an alternative basis the comprehensive white papers and the theme-based white papers in future. And we have decided that in the year 2013, this year, we'll issue for the first time a theme-based defense white paper.
那么综合型国防白皮书呢，主要是侧重于全面的来介绍国防和军队建设的总体情况。相比较而言呢，专题型国防白皮书有利于集中阐释国防和军队建设某一个领域的政策原则、历史发展、历史沿革和这种发展建设等方面的情况。
The comprehensive defense white paper provides information related to the overall development of our national defense and armed forces, while the theme-based white paper would focus on certain area, the policies, principles, the history, background, as well as the development of such area.
那么应该说，专题型国防白皮书的发表，丰富了国防白皮书的体系，同时也有利于国际社会更加系统深入地了解中国和中国军队。
The issuance of the theme-based defense white paper would enrich the defense white paper system and would help the international community to better understand China and China's armed forces in a systematic way.
那么你的第2个问题呢，是关于这个军事透明度方面的问题。我们发表国防白皮书的重要目的，就是为了向世界更好地说明中国军队。那么不论是综合型的国防白皮书，还是专题型的国防白皮书，都对于提高军事透明度、增进国际社会对中国军队的了解和认识具有重要的作用。
And your second question is related to China's military transparency. One important objective for us to issue the defense white paper is to better brief the whole world on China's armed forces. And no matter the comprehensive national defense white paper or the theme-based white papers played an important role in helping the international community to better understand China's armed forces and to enhance our transparency.
那么军事透明度呢，事关国家安全，它是一个相对的概念。世界上没有哪一个国家在军事上是绝对透明的。
Military transparency concerns national security. It is a concept in relative terms. There is no country in the world that enjoys absolute military transparency.
今年年初啊，我曾经随一个军队的新闻考察团到西方的一个国家去访问。该国的一位知名学者建议我们到那个国家国防部一个负责新闻协调的一个机构去参观访问。
And at the beginning of this year, I joined a delegation to visit one Western country, and it was suggested by one scholar of that country that we need to pay a visit to one department in the defense ministry of that country that is engaged in media coordination.
我们认为啊，这个与媒体打交道的部门啊，应该是非常开放透明的。所以啊，我们就向那个这个官员非常干脆地告诉我们，不可能，因为这涉及国家秘密。
We assumed that the department that engaged with the media should be open and transparent. So we made that proposal to the defense ministry of that country. But the officials in charge gave us a clear-cut no, because they say that that department involves national secrets.
对此啊，我们感到是表示理解和尊重，因为每一个国家都有它自己的军事禁区，对外透明的范围、方式、内容和时机是各个国家依据自身的安全利益而做出的决定。
We understand and respect their decision, because we know that every country has its military secrets, and the scope, formality, content, and timing of transparency is determined by each country in accordance with its security interests.
还需要指出的是，我们认为军事透明包括战略意图的透明和军事能力的透明两个方面。
Here I would like to point it out that military transparency includes both the transparency of the strategic intentions and the transparency of the military capabilities.
中方在战略意图上是坦荡的。近年来，中国与23个国家的防务部门建立了战略磋商机制，军队领导人多次出席多边会议，发表公开演讲，接受国内外的记者采访。而且中国还建立了国防部新闻发言人制度，开设了国防部网站，通过多种方式向外界介绍中国的国防政策、安全关切和中国军队的使命任务。
China is very candid in terms of our strategic intentions. In recent years, our defense ministry established strategic consultation mechanisms with the defense ministries of 23 countries. Our military leaders attended multilateral security policy meetings on a number of occasions and delivered speeches to the public and gave interviews to both domestic and foreign media. Our defense ministry has also set up a spokesperson system and opened its website. And we briefed the outside world through various ways our defense policies and security concerns and the missions and tasks of our armed forces.
那么中国在军事能力方面也是非常透明的。我军与外军开展了多场联演联训，多次邀请外军人员观摩军演，邀请外媒记者到部队参观采访。中国军队的媒体每天也在报道着大量的涉军的一些军事新闻和信息。
China is also transparent in terms of military capabilities. We have carried out a large number of, quite a lot of joint military exercises and drills with foreign armed forces. And we have invited the representatives of the foreign military to observe the military exercises and invited the media organizations, both from home and abroad, to visit our garrisons and do interviews. And every day, our military media has been giving a large volume of information and news reporting on our military development.
应该说啊，中国的军事透明度是非常高的，符合中国军队的发展实际，也与现阶段国家的经济社会的发展水平相一致。谢谢。
It is fair to say that China enjoys a high degree of military transparency. It is in line with the reality of our military development, and it is also in line with the current stage of the economic and social development in China. Thank you.
继续提问。这个问题是第四。
谢谢发言人，谢谢主持人。法制晚报记者提问，我有3个问题哦。第一个问题就是在这个白皮书里边也提到了解放军参与这个抢险救灾和经济建设任务的这个执行。那很多外国军队都是在准备打仗和打仗。那我想请问一下，就是我军在参与这个抢险救灾和经济建设任务的同时，有没有妨碍到日常的训练？会不会削弱这个战斗力？然后第二个问题想请问一下，就是我们今天公布了这个就是陆军机动部队和海空的这个数字，我算了一下，这个一共是148.3万，就是我军全军是230万。想请问一下，其余的数字包括哪些？然后还有第三个问题是在这个白皮书里边也提到了，我军要我国要维护海外利益。那想请问一下，是不是说，如果在海外有我公民或我国的这个利益受到这个侵犯时，我国会向外派出战斗部队？谢谢。
From Legal Evening News, I have 3 questions. First, we have noticed, and it also been stated in this white paper, that PLA participated in disaster relief and rescue operations and the national economic development activities. While we know that the armed forces in other countries are either preparing to fight or in combat operations. My question is whether this kind of activities by our PLA would undermine our combating capabilities, as it would affect its normal training. And second question is that this white paper released certain figures that are related to the mobile operational units of the Army and the Navy and also Air Force. Altogether, it's 1.483 million. But we know that the total strength of China's military stands at 2.3 million. So how would you explain this gap? And the third question is that this white paper also stated that the armed forces would protect the overseas interests of the nation. Does that mean that if the interests of the Chinese nationals or our national interests are undermined overseas, you would send combating troops overseas?
谢谢，你是提了3个问题，我看正好我们3个人平均1个人来回答1个。那么第一个问题是不是先请韩处长你来答一下？
很高兴回答记者的第一个问题。参加和支援国家建设事业是宪法和法律赋予中国武装力量的重要任务，也是践行我军全心全意为人民服务宗旨的具体体现。作为人民的子弟兵啊，支援国家建设是我们每名官兵义不容辞的责任。
Regarding your first question, I think to participate in and support national development is an important task assigned to our armed forces by our Constitution. It also demonstrates the fundamental purpose of our armed forces to serve our people wholeheartedly. Our armed forces are the sons and daughters of the Chinese people, so it is the due obligation of every soldier to support our national development.
过去我们讲啊，
叫养兵千日，现在已成为养兵千日，用兵千日。
In the past, we say that the soldiers and the troops are trained for 1,000 days, just for one day of crisis. But as situation evolves, now the armed forces are trained and used for 1,000 days.
近年来啊，我军在完成教育训练、战备执勤、科研实验等任务的同时啊，坚持把地方所需、群众所盼和部队所能啊结合起来，充分利用我军的人才、技术、装备等方面的资源和优势，随行了大量的包括抢险救灾在内的这种非战争军事行动。
In recent years, our armed forces have completed their tasks of education, training, patrol, and scientific experiments, and they have actively responded to the needs and expectations of the people, and have made good use of their advantages in human resources, equipment, and technology, and have participated in a large number of military operations other than war, including disaster relief and rescue operations.
通过执行这些任务啊，部队的组织指挥、快速反应、远程投送以及后勤装备保障能力啊等方面啊都得到了检验和锻炼，官兵的意志和作风啊也得到了很好的磨练，同时啊也积累了军事力量运用的丰富经验。
These operations have tested and strengthened the capabilities of our armed forces in organizing, commanding, and fast response, long-distance delivery, and logistical support. And they've also strengthened the will and the working style of our men and women in uniform. And these operations also help us to build up experience in diversified employment of the armed forces.
可以说啊，我军随行多样化军事任务是提高核心军事能力的重要途径。谢谢。
So to conduct military operations other than war is an important way for us to enhance our core military capabilities. Thank you.
那么你的第二个问题呢，我觉得其实还是一个关于军事透明度方面的问题。刚才呢我已经给大家介绍过了，这部白皮书在这个军事透明方面其实亮点是非常多的。除了你刚才提到的，这个公布了陆军机动作战部队的人数啊，海空军的人数以外，这部白皮书呢十分重要的还是详细的阐述了中国武装力量多样化运用的一些政策和原则。这些是在以前的白皮书当中没有进行过总结和概括的。同时呢，这部白皮书也非常系统的介绍了中国军队近年来。
And will the PLA resort to force to settle the island disputes with China's neighbors? The second question is that now China's armed forces are carrying out more and more operations overseas, and it is also stated in this white paper that the armed forces should safeguard the overall overseas interests of the nation. Does that mean that China will increase its military presence overseas? And are you planning to set up overseas military bases?
那么先请吴主任回答你的第二个问题，然后我再回答第一个。
那么关于中国军队维护国家海外利益这个问题，我想中国军队一直是维护世界和平和地区稳定的一个重要力量。那么我们维护国家的海外利益，不追求，也就是不是为了加强海外军事存在，更不是为了谋求霸权。中国在海外没有建立军事基地。谢谢。
Talking about to uphold the overseas interests, the Chinese armed forces have been a staunch force for upholding world peace and regional stability. And our participation in the campaigns to uphold overseas interests is not for increasing our military presence overseas, even less for seeking hegemony. And China has not set up any military bases overseas. Thank you.
那么关于你的第一个问题，那么在这版的国防白皮书当中啊，是第一次专门的用单独的一节来介绍中国武装力量维护国家海洋权益方面的一些实践。
Talking about the first question on the maritime rights, in the white paper, one sector is wholly devoted to the practice of the China's armed forces to uphold maritime rights and interests of the nation.
那么中国是一个陆海兼备的大国，开发、利用和保护海洋、建设海洋强国是国家的重要发展战略。
China has large territories of land and sea. To develop, use, and protect the sea, and to build China into a strong maritime nation is important development strategy of our country.
目前啊，中国在海洋权益问题上正面临着严峻的挑战。维护海洋权益是中国军队所肩负的重要职责，也是当前应对国家安全威胁的现实需要。
At present, China is faced with severe challenges on its maritime rights and interests.
中国军队在相关的管辖海域建立了常态化的战备巡逻制度，与国家的海上执法部门保持着密切的协调和配合，并结合日常战备，为国家的海上执法、渔业生产和油气开发等活动提供安全保障。
It is the important task of the Chinese armed forces to uphold maritime rights, and it is also something we must do so as to address the national security threats. And the Chinese armed forces have established routine patrol system in the related waters under our jurisdiction, and we have kept close coordination and collaboration with the law enforcement bodies and have provided security guarantee on such activities as maritime law enforcement, fishery, and oil and gas exploration while enhancing our routine combat preparedness.
需要强调的是啊，中国军队保卫国家领土主权和海洋权益的决心和意志是坚定不移的。
I would like to stress that the Chinese armed forces have firm determination and resolve to safeguard the territorial sovereignty and maritime rights and interests of the nation.
同时，中国历来主张和平解决国际争端和热点问题，反对任何将矛盾复杂化和扩大化的言行。谢谢。
China has always called for the peaceful settlement of international disputes and hotspot issues. We are against any attempt to complicate or escalate the issues.
继续提问，来这。
Thank you from Reuters. I have a question also about North Korea. A spy agency affiliated with the Pentagon last week said it believed that North Korea had succeeded in miniaturizing a nuclear weapon that it would be able to put on a missile. Does the Chinese military share this assessment that North Korea now has nuclear missiles? And is the Chinese military still maintaining normal, regular contacts with the North Korean military at this time of tension on the peninsula? Thank you.
路透社记者，我的问题也是和朝鲜相关的。那么近期呢，与美国五角大楼相关联的一个情报部门，提出呢，朝鲜现在已经有能力将其核武军事化了，并且有能力为其导弹装备核弹头。那么想问一下，中国是否也认可这样的一个判断？也就是说，朝鲜已经拥有了核导弹的能力。那么在这样一个这个冲突不断加剧的情况下，是否中国的军方 依然与朝鲜军方保持着军事的接触。
那么你这个问题呢，还是关于朝鲜半岛局势的。大家都知道，当前啊，朝鲜半岛的局势是非常的复杂敏感。我们始终认为啊，半岛保持和平稳定是地区各国人民之福，局势紧张甚至动荡是各国人民之祸。
Your question is also related to the current situation on the Korean Peninsula. We believe that the current situation on the peninsula is complicated and sensitive, and the peace and the stability of the peninsula would serve the interests of the people of countries in the region, while tension or even turbulence on the Korean Peninsula will undermine the interests of the people in the region.
那么关于半岛问题呢，中方的政策和立场也是非常明确的，就是一是要坚持维护半岛的和平与稳定，二是坚持推进半岛的无核化，三是要坚持通过对话来解决问题。谢谢。
The policies and the positions of China on the issue of the Korean Peninsula have also been consistent and clear. First, we are committed to maintaining peace and stability on the peninsula. Second, we are committed to promoting denuclearization on the peninsula. And thirdly, we are committed to promoting the settlement of the issue through dialogue. Thank you.
下一个问题，第三排这个。
Thank you, AFP. The white paper mentions how Asia-Pacific military alliances have made the situation there tenser. Would you be able to provide more details on these alliances? And would you say that the increasing influence of the USA in the Asia-Pacific region is making the situation tenser? Thank you very much.
法新社记者在白皮书中提到呢，在亚太地区的军事同盟使得这一地区呢更加的紧张。那么，您是否能够就军事同盟这个问题，提出更多的一些信息？那么，您是否认为美国在亚太地区越来越大的存在，是使得这一地区更加的紧张？
我想你这两个问题呢，其实是可以给你一个相同的答案，那就是我们一贯认为啊，保持亚太地区的和平、稳定、繁荣和发展，符合亚太地区各国人民的利益，同时也符合世界各国人民的利益。
I think I can give the same answer to both of your questions. And to uphold peace, stability, development, and prosperity of the Asia and Pacific would serve the benefits of the people in Asia Pacific and also serve the benefits of people of the world at large.
那么有关突出军事安全议程、刻意的加强军事部署、强化军事同盟这样一种做法，是不符合时代的发展潮流的，也不利于维护地区的和平与稳定。
Certain efforts made to highlight military agenda and enhance military deployment and also strengthen military alliance in the region are not in line with the calling of the times and are not conducive to upholding peace and stability in the region.
我们希望有关的各个方啊，都能够多做有利于促进本地区的国家之间的安全互信，有利于维护地区的和平稳定的事情。谢谢。
We hope that the relevant parties would do more to enhance the mutual trust between the countries in the region and contribute to peace and stability in this region. Thank you.
好，最后一个问题吧，是好那个第五排那个。
白人你好，我是香港《文汇报》的记者， 就是去年底和今年初以来，那个解放军陆续出台了一系列的新的规定和措施，其中包括禁酒令、军车管理以及厉行节约、严格经费管理，明确要求要按战斗力标准办事等。我不知道目前这些措施落实的情况怎么样，未来是否会坚持下去？谢谢。
From Wen Guibao, since the end of last year, quite a number of new policies and measures have been adopted by the PLA, such as the prohibition of alcohol in the in dinners, and also the stricter management of car plates, and also a more frugal approach, and to complete tasks on the basis of the combat capabilities. I was wondering, are these policies well implemented, and will you adhere to these policies in future?
好，这个问题先请韩处长回答，然后看看吴主任还有什么补充的没有。
我想记者提问的问题啊，主要是指军队的作风建设问题。应该说啊，作风建设是军队建设的一个重要方面。
Your question is related to the working style improvement of our armed forces. Working style improvement is also one important part of our military development.
我军对作风建设啊，一直高度重视，始终也抓得很紧。在我军长期革命斗争和建设发展的实践中啊，形成了许多的光荣传统和优良作风。去年底啊，军委专门颁布了关于加强自身作风建设的10项规定。这个规定啊，坚持了高标准、严要求，充分体现了习主席和军委对带头弘扬我军光荣传统和优良作风的鲜明态度，也体现了严于律己、狠抓作风建设的坚强决心。
Our armed forces have been committed to enhancing the working style, and in the revolutionary times and also in the time of national development, we have made great efforts in this field and have built up experience and have fostered sound traditions. And recently, the Central Military Commission issued a 10-point measure to strengthen the working style with high standards and high demands. And this fully demonstrates the role played by Chairman Xi Jinping and the Central Military Commission in enhancing the working style, and also shows the firm resolve that the Central Military Commission have to enhance the working style for the whole armed forces.
连同啊，最近总部下发的一系列的加强作风建设的措施办法，对于加强全军部队的作风建设起到了有力的带动和促进作用。
The general departments of the armed forces issued policies and measures to enhance working style. All these have greatly promoted our efforts to enhance working style in the whole military system.
作风建设啊，是一个动态的、不断发展变化的过程。我们将啊坚持不懈地抓好作风建设，不断把我军的光荣传统啊和优良作风传承下去，发扬光大。谢谢。
And we will continue to strengthen our efforts to improve working style and carry forward the fine traditions of our armed forces. Thank you.
刚才记者先生提到了关于军车管理的问题，我在这里也做一个回应。那么长期以来啊，军队一直高度重视军车的运行管理问题。去年年底，总参谋部下发了关于严格军车管理、维护军队良好形象的一个通知，在全军范围内开展军车管理的专项整治活动。
And talking about the management of military vehicles, we are committed to applying more stricter management of the military vehicles. And in the end of last year, the headquarters of General Staff issued a notice on the strengthening of such management. And we are planning to apply this policy and notice and to enhance the management of vehicles in the whole military system.
那么活动开展以